Well, today is YouTube only. Having some
Okay, good.
some issue connecting to TikTok. I'm not going to worry about it because I can't watch it anyway. So, um, what did I need to do? I needed to do something. Oh, this is what I needed to do. I can't show the stock ticker anymore. That's great.
Why?
Copyright violation.
My God.
Yeah. Unless I can find one that, you know, is
Can you find one
copyright.
directly off of Google?
I haven't bothered looking. I just, which I mean, I'm not that worried about. I just don't want to get in trouble with YouTube. Like, so
Exactly.
I'm not worried about monetization. I just don't, you know, don't want to get in trouble with YouTube.
I
Hi,
understand.
Andrea.
Hello, everyone. Hi, Brian.
Today we're going to talk about the SAVE Act, so we'll give it a minute here. We're going to go over the SAVE Act. um, because we read it. Did you read it, Jill?
I did read it. I'm
Yes, you
sorry.
did. Yes, you did read
I did read it.
it. Did you read it twice?
I had to read it several times because I told you when I read, it's the ADHD, right? I'll be reading and I'll be thinking about what I just read, and then I'll realize that shit, I got to read that again, that section again. So I do that, or I'll be, thinking about what I think of it, and then I have to read that section again. So I get to read it a couple times.
Right. Well, we're going to cover the SAVE Act. We're going to cover pieces of the legislation. We're going to have a discussion about it. Oh man, I made a video about this, basically covering some of the text of the legislation, and I pissed a bunch of people off because people don't want people to have discussions about this stuff. They just want you to stick to their side's talking points, and any deviation from that, and you're a piece of shit, basically. So yeah, I pissed a lot of people off just by reading the bill. Is really all I did. I didn't give much of any kind of opinion. I said this is what it says. The whole point of it was to open up a discussion. I got a lot of pushback.
So people want opinions, they don't want just the reading.
Yeah, it's like they're literally pissed off at me for reading the bill. Like, but we'll get into all that. I'm gonna get here just a minute to let some more people in so we can cover all of this. We're gonna cover the SAVE Act. I'll go over the stuff I normally do, but covering the SAVE Act is just for discussion, right? People, we look at the legislation, we have discussions about it. That way, everyone can hear everyone's points of view, because I may read some part of this and think, well, that's not anything. And then someone else may say, well, what if it causes this to happen, right? That's why we have discussions. This is why we have discussions. And I get it. People don't like having discussions anymore because you got to toe the party line. But I'm not a part of your party, and I don't give a shit about your party, and I'm going to discuss things. That's how we roll.
That's how, yeah.
I don't know what
Yeah,
else to tell you.
I'm not looking to toe somebody else's party line. To keep them in, check and make sure everything looks good for them. I'm not worried about that.
Yeah, the point is to educate people. I have, my opinion on this piece of legislation really does not matter. It really doesn't. So the point is to educate people so they can, form an opinion, and whatever opinion they form is theirs. I'm not trying to sway anyone's opinions. I'm not in favor of the bill. I'll tell you that. I think it's redundant, but I also am not so sure it's as bad as people say it is. So, but that's why we talk about it, to flesh these things out.
Yeah,
So,
and he said he made the video for me to go watch it. He tagged me in it. And then he said, and read the bill, and sent me the link to the bill, which I already had in my browser ready to read, but I just didn't get to it yet. So he made sure I read it too. So he's not looking to change my mind either.
oh, as if.
Yeah, you can't do that, right? Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean,
Um,
you can if you bring information that I didn't know. Absolutely.
yeah. Yeah, I'm under no illusion that I could ever change your mind or any other woman's mind for that matter. um, so the Dow Jones looks like it's up right now. I can't put the ticker up on the screen anymore, folks. Well, I can, but I get a copyright ding from YouTube. Isn't that great? Just looking at a stock ticker is now a problem.
Yeah.
But last time I looked, it's up like 600 points. Oil was up, I think, $1.50. RBOB was up. Natural gas was. Everything's up somewhat today. I don't know what happened later in the day. But it was pretty flat for most of the day, and then it started rising. But we're going to go ahead and get into the SAVE Act. It passed the House. Was it yesterday or the day before?
It was yesterday.
So some of the concerns, and if you're in the chat, please feel free to ask questions or give opinions. Some of the concerns with the SAVE Act, voter suppression, um, women's last names. What else, Jill? What am I missing? Okay, it's kind of went blank here. Um,
Wait, that's in the bill, you mean?
no, that people are talking about.
Oh, so people were talking about exactly what you said.
Yeah,
Women happen to have their last name match their birth certificate on their drive, as well as their driver's license or ID or whatever. They
right.
have to match, and they're talking about it passing the Senate too. They're worried about it passing the Senate because of that
So
information. But yeah,
does it have to match?
it doesn't specifically say that. No, I did not see that in there. It just
Right,
says it has to have your last name.
right. So we'll get into that because my question has been every time you've ever needed your birth certificate for anything in the past, did it need to match? You know what I mean? Just trying to figure it out. So, what is required to register to vote in the SAVE Act is, and I'll just read it right off, a form of identification issued consistent with the requirements of the Real ID Act. And that was passed 20 years ago. That indicates the applicant is a citizen of the United States. So basically, whatever you need to get a real ID is what you need to register, is what this is saying. Um,
That's what it looks like to me too.
yeah, well, that's exactly what it says, verbatim.
Hmm.
Um,
Right.
Now, if we name something off, that doesn't mean you have to have that. That means it's one of the things you can use, right?
Hmm.
So, and I think that got a lot of people upset in my video because I said one of the things you can use is a passport. And people are like, well, I can't afford a fucking passport. And I'm like, it doesn't say you have to have a passport. It's one of the things you can use, right? So let's understand. So, number two, a valid passport is one of the things you can use. Number three, the applicant's official United States military ID card, together with a United States military record of service showing the applicant's place of birth was in the United States. And that is because, as we talked about yesterday, military, you can be in the military without being a citizen. So, not just the military ID card, but also your record, which would apparently, I wasn't in the military, but apparently your military record shows your place of birth.
Yes.
Number four, a valid government issued photo ID card issued by a federal, state, or tribal government. See if I can read the very bottom of that. Showing that the applicant's place of birth was in the United States. I got to look at something.
What are you going to look at?
Because I do have a real ID. I haven't had it that long. I got it about a year ago, I think.
I have not got mine yet.
I'm looking to see if my real ID has my place of birth on it. Because if it does, you could use it. If it doesn't, you can't, because it says must show place of birth.
I was just going to say that. And that's the issue. I think a lot of people are having. Some states do not have that, is what they're saying.
Okay.
And I don't know if that's true or not. I do not have mine, so I wouldn't know if Pennsylvania does or not. Um, so that would be the issue. You would have to have a passport then.
Right. So my real ID does not show a place of birth. Now, the thing about
So
these,
in Oklahoma, they will. Go ahead.
well, what I was going to
I was just
say,
saying.
I know they scan these in like computers, like, because it's got this thing on the back. I don't know if the information where you scan it is just exactly what's on the front or if there's more information. But as far as what is on my driver's license, my place of birth is not on there. So I will assume this cannot be used
Right.
unless there's a
That
way to
cannot
scan
be.
it. Right.
There may be a place to scan it. I don't know that either.
Yeah, I have
We
no
would
idea.
have to do more research into that.
Okay.
So
So,
that's the issue people are having.
right. Passport, military ID with record, valid government issue photo ID that shows place of birth. I don't know what that would be if it's not a driver's license, honestly. Because photo ID that shows place of birth. It's not a driver's license, or at least not in my case. Um, number 5, a valid government issued photo ID card issued by a federal, state, or tribal government other than the ID described last time, right? So this is an alternative government photo ID. Uh, if presented together with one or more of the following: a certified birth certificate issued by state. So what this is saying, okay, what this is saying is a valid government issued photo ID together with a birth certificate. You don't have to have your place of birth on your driver's license. That's what this is saying. If you present your driver's license or your ID that doesn't have place of birth, you can present it with a birth certificate issued by a state, unit, local government. Move on. Which was issued by this. I already read that. Basically, your birth certificate has to say where you were born. Filed with the office responsible for vital records. Includes full name, date of birth, place of birth of the applicant. So we're going to stop right there real quick. So the way I'm reading that is if your government issued ID does not have your place of birth on it, you can combine it with something that does. Is that how you read that, Jill?
Yeah. Yes. It says that you can combine it with your birth certificate. And nowhere on there did I see that it said that your birth certificate has to match the name on the ID.
Well, that's why we stopped right here. Because I got to that part. Yeah, my ID is definitely a real ID. I had to go get it, and it wasn't. I mean, I had to get some shit to go get it. Right, like it wasn't hard, but I did have to do some stuff. So this is a good place to stop because it says birth certificate must include full name, date of birth, place of birth, and the applicant. This is the thing that have people upset about the women's name change at marriage, right?
Right.
And this is the thing that I don't quite understand because they're not going to write into the law that the birth certificate doesn't have your name on it. Like a birth certificate has your name on it. There's no way around that. So is the concern that if your birth certificate doesn't exactly match another form of ID, then you're no good? Is that the concern?
That's the concern, yes.
Because right here it says your form of ID together with your birth certificate is good, but it says nothing about names at all matching.
Mm-hmm.
And another thing, it says nothing about, because I've heard people talking about this, it says nothing about having to include like a marriage license in the case of a name change. There's nothing at all in the bill about that. Like, hey, if your birth certificate doesn't match your ID, then you have to include something that rectifies that. There's nothing
Right.
in the bill, in the language of the bill, that states anything about that.
It doesn't even state that you would have to have your marriage license.
No. But at the end of the day, when you go to register, there's going to be someone there that is making a decision on what these regulations mean.
Mm-hmm.
Regardless of what the law says, you're going to be dealing with someone who is exercising it based on what they believe it means. Correct? So,
Oh, yeah,
yeah.
probably,
So there
yes.
will be instances where people think you have to have the marriage license, whether you legally do or not. We cannot get around that. People are going to think you have to have that, even though it's not specifically stated in the bill.
Yes, so I would recommend when you do go to register to vote or however you do it, that you have your birth certificate, your ID, and your marriage certificate just in case,
Right. Now, there's
which is
no.
a pain in the ass.
Yes. Now, here's the thing, because people are talking about poll taxes, right, and all this stuff. And I totally get that. And all I can talk about is in my state, okay? People are concerned, like, having to get a passport is a poll tax. Having to get a birth certificate is a poll tax. Having to get
Mm-hmm.
any of these things is a poll tax, right? I think what the government's position is, you have to have these things to get a real ID anyway. You should already have them, correct? But not
Um,
everyone gets a real ID. Not everyone has a driver's license, right? So I
right,
think that the government is making the assumption that people will have this stuff because you're supposed to have a real ID. But not everyone is ever, that's never going to be a thing that everyone has a real ID because not everyone drives.
not
And
everyone
and not
flies
everyone
either.
flies. And the fact of the matter is, not everyone is going to go out and get a real ID. So, not everyone is going to have these documents. And in that case, it is certainly a poll tax. But if you have a real ID, you don't get to use the poll tax excuse because you needed the same documents to get the real ID, which means you have them. Correct?
Right.
So
Yes.
I think the poll tax only applies to people that will never get a real ID because they have absolutely no reason to. Right?
Yeah,
Does that make sense?
it makes sense.
If it doesn't, you can say so. I'm trying to work this
No,
out.
I am right with you, so I can't argue with you on something that I know what you're talking about.
So here's the other
Sorry.
question. Here's the other question. If the passport is a poll tax, and I would definitely say the passport is 100% a poll tax because nobody has to have a passport. But isn't there some
Right.
time in your life where you absolutely have a birth certificate no matter what? Like, and is it a poll tax if you have to have it for other things? Is the question. What did you need to get your first driver's license? Or what did you need to get other things? Was it some of this stuff or was it something else?
So when I went to get my take my permit when I had to wait till I was 18 to do because my mother would not let me. But anyhow, when I went to go get it, I presented my birth certificate that I had a copy. I had a copied birth certificate. It wasn't a copy I made. I ordered it
Right.
because we couldn't find my birth certificate. When I went to get my driver's license, I had to have that. So I give it to them and they tell me it's not real. I said it came from the vital statistics. It's real as hell. And they were like, no, it's not the original. You have to have the original. So I had to have my original birth certificate to get my driver's license. So I did not get my driver's license when I turned 18. I was 21 because my dad had my birth certificate and we did not know that. And then finally he, was like, I have your birth certificate. And that's how I got my driver's license. I don't know if they still do that, but that's how it was when I went to get mine.
Yeah, so I had to get my birth certificate when I was getting my passport for the first time. I had one when I was a lot younger, but it got lost in a fire or something. Who knows? I went online and I got one from some place that gets your birth certificate, and it didn't have the seal thing on it, right? It didn't have
Right.
the stamp or the right. Um, and they're like, that doesn't work. I I had to call the hospital where I was born, and thankfully it was still there because I am that old. Um, and they sent me one. But now you do go through the state vital statistics office place. That's where you can get them now. But I got mine directly from the hospital. It's a good thing I did because
Right.
that hospital is not there anymore, but it was there then.
Oh my God.
Okay, so where were we? Um, Other things you would need if you were adopted, you may need an adoption decree because you likely won't have your birth certificate, right? You may or you may not. So you could use an adoption decree. A consular report of birth if you were born abroad works. Naturalization certificate if you got your citizenship later. So, is there any? I guess my main question is there any time where a woman has presented her birth certificate and the name on it didn't match her current name and that was an issue for something? Or is this is what I'm trying to wrap my head around because there's no language at all in this bill about names not matching.
Right. There's not.
So what exactly? And here's the thing. Hillary Clinton comes out, says something about 69 or 70 million women just, I mean, come on. Let's really. um, that was a little much, and that's why we need to discuss this. So, what is the deal? Is there's nothing in the legislation about it. Do you think, and here's my question, do you think like the people on the left, and especially in the government, the people that kind of create the narratives, do you think they're creating this narrative so when it gets to the Senate, they'll add that language to the bill? Do you think
That's
they
a
want it?
possibility.
Do you think they want it added to the bill, like specific language that says something about the names not matching, just so that's cleared up? Because I think a lot of times, a lot of these narratives are created to prevent or to get some kind of change in the legislation, and not necessarily true, but it does manage to get them changes in the legislation or amendments.
Yeah. And we'll have to read it once it gets to the Senate, right?
Yeah.
And see if they did any changes to it.
Okay, so Peony has, let's look here at Peony. Because she has a personal experience with it. My mother-in-law doesn't have a birth certificate. She only has a registration of birth because she was born at home. She sent it for a passport and they don't send it back. She has nothing. Because my name didn't match, I had to have a birth certificate, social security card, and a marriage license to get my real ID.
Yes. Yes, you
Now,
do.
I have heard of that. That is something I've heard of that I didn't think of today. I've heard of people that have been married more than once having issues getting a real ID, and they wanted their divorce decrees showing
Yes.
showing their progression of
Their
name.
history.
Yeah,
Yes.
that I've heard of. So maybe that's where this is coming from.
I mean, that could be an issue. It
Yeah,
could end up being an issue.
yeah, and that makes
I
sense.
mean, who keeps their all them like not everybody keeps them records. Now I do. I have an issue, but here's the thing: I can't find my marriage certificate, so I have not got my real ID because I can't find my marriage certificate. I have to look for it. I have to find it now. I have no choice. When
I
we moved, I don't know where it went.
right. And thank you for bringing that up, Peony, because I this is something I've actually heard of. And you know that the language in the Real ID Act doesn't say, okay, if you've been married twice or three times, you have to present all of your divorce decrees so we can track the entire, change of your name status throughout the years. That's not going to be in that legislation. Just like it's not in the SAVE Act. So it makes sense, right? It's starting to make sense to
Right.
me why people will be concerned because they're sharing their personal experiences with getting a real ID. Because I know this woman that I think she'd been married 3 or 4 times, and she went to get a real ID, and they wanted her to present divorce decrees or whatever documentation that would show her name changed for each and every one of those.
Yeah, her history of her names.
Yeah.
Yes, they want that.
Hmm.
And that's messed up. That's going to make it hard for a lot of women because not everybody's just been married once.
Right. And obviously, anything that makes it harder to vote shouldn't be a thing, right? Voting should not be harder. Even if
No.
you are trying to prevent non citizens from voting, it shouldn't make it harder for the citizens to vote. It just shouldn't. Voting should be easy.
No,
Um,
non-citizens cannot vote anyway. So that's the issue here. They already know they can't vote.
right. Yeah. Yeah, I totally get that. And I agree with the poll tax stuff. I agree with that 100%. The only point I wanted to make about a poll tax is if you have to have that stuff for things you've done in the past, then you had to have it anyway, and it's not a poll tax. That was,
Hmm.
if it's something that only works at the polls and not for other things you needed it for, then it's a poll tax. If you had to have it anyway, you can't, right? But there's another thing I read here that I have not heard from anyone, and maybe you can, after I read this, maybe you can speak about it more, Jill. The process for those without any documentation. There is a process, right? Um, why isn't my phone charging? Process for those without any documentation. Subject to any relevant guidance adopted by the Election Assistance Commission, each state shall establish process under which an applicant who cannot provide documentary proof of United States citizenship under paragraph 1 may attest under penalty of perjury in an affidavit that they are a citizen of the United States. So if you don't have any of that, you can still potentially get registered if they don't find a reason to stop it by basically signing a statement, sworn statement, or affidavit under penalty of perjury that you are a citizen. Now, whether they approve that or not will be up to each state, is the way I read it. Do you know what I'm
Hmm.
talking about, Jill?
Yeah,
Is
yeah, I
that
know
how you
exactly
read
what
it?
you're saying. That's how I read it. That
Okay.
the state will decide if they want to do that. But here's the thing I have with that is that anybody can lie. Look at Trump.
I mean, I agree with that. But what I'm saying is no one's talking about the fact that there's a way to get registered without any of these documents.
Yeah, no one's, yeah. Well, they don't want to talk about that. Are they going to take that out when it hits the Senate? That's another thing too that you got to, you know, because there's going to be stuff put in and stuff removed when it hits the Senate.
Right. Now, that all that being said, just because there's a way to do it doesn't mean it's guaranteed.
Right.
Because
And
they,
it's also red states are not going to do that.
right. What do you Americans pay for a gallon of petrol? 3.24, I believe, is the average today. Okay, moving on. Non-citizens from removal of non-citizens from registration rolls. There's been a lot of people worried about people getting kicked off registration rolls, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yes,
Um,
yes.
a state shall remove an individual who is not a citizen of the United States from the official list of eligible voters. I always get a damn phone call. At any time, upon receipt of documentation or verified information that the registrant is not a United States citizen. So what that means is they can remove you from the rolls upon receipt of documentation or verified information that a registrant is not a citizen. What is that documentation? What is the verified information? So if I write a letter to Pennsylvania and say Jill's not a citizen, is that documentation? Like, what is, like, this is, and I didn't, the first time I read this particular part, I didn't have a problem with it. And the second time I read it, I didn't have a problem with it. And the third time I read it, I was like, wait a minute, what is the documentation? Because
Right.
this is one of those things where I can envision this a year from now, where the documentation is literally just anything someone decides is documentation. Right?
Yeah.
So for me, I would certainly want to see specifically what documentation is required. And the reason is because they have no problem being specific about what documentation is required for you to become registered. Okay? They're very
Right.
specific about that. Passport, government ID, birth certificate, boom, all these things. Very specific about what they have to be, very specific about what has to be on those very specific things. But when it comes to removing someone, it's just a document.
Just a document.
Any document. Right?
Right.
So
Like Juju said.
that's a little sus.
And like Juju said, that sounds like documentation, but not verified documentation.
Yeah. Juju. Actually it's Juju Jew. Juju Juju.
July.
Juju Juju. Anyway. Um lack of specificity in the type of documentation for removal is an issue for me.
Yeah, that's an issue for me too.
Yeah. I mean, they had no problem being specific about everything else.
No, no,
So,
they didn't.
but that's why you read these things and you don't listen to the news and you don't listen to people on fucking TikTok, right? I don't care what their opinions are. And another good thing to do is before you read a piece of legislation that's very hotly contested or whatever, talked about a lot of opinions, like this piece of legislation. What I find it's best to do before I read it is to try to completely forget anything I've heard about it. That way I'm not
Oh,
reading
yes.
it right. That way I don't start reading it with some form of bias. And I ended up still reading this one. Hell, this will be the fourth time I've read it now. But that's just because I want to make sure I completely understand to form an opinion. The first couple of times I read it, I had no problem with one certain part of this, and now I do. That's why you read it more than once. And it's impossible, honestly, to get people to read legislation even once. What is this, Jill? A 5-minute read at most?
Well, for somebody without ADHD, absolutely.
Okay. You don't
Yes,
have to
it's
make
a
it
good
personal.
5 minute read.
It's probably less than a 5 minute. What is this,
It's
like
very
3 pages?
personal.
I mean, I
Yeah, it
get
isn't
it.
very long.
Yeah,
I'd say about a 10-minute read.
yeah. I mean, your little schizo, whatever issues you're having, they don't apply to everybody, you know?
Yeah, but a lot of people have ADHD.
So you read it and what? You forgot? Or lost your
No, you
place?
don't
Like what
forget.
happened?
No.
Why
So
did it
when
take you so long to read it?
it didn't take me that long to read it. I said about 10 minutes. Um, but here's what you do. You'll start reading and then you'll get to a paragraph and you'll be thinking about what you just read, right? And
Mm-hmm.
then you're like, shit, because you got to go back and reread that paragraph. You have
Okay.
to because
Yeah.
you lost track. And then sometimes your brain will wander and think about how you feel about it. Then you got to reread that paragraph too. So that's what does it. That's because your brain isn't shutting off because you're thinking about what you just read.
Totally understand that. And that happens to me too. But when that happens, I just keep moving forward and reading. Like I totally do that too, but I don't stop. Like I just finish
Well,
it.
that's why you read it 3 times.
Right.
I reread. Like I don't read it 3 times. I read it 3 times. Like that. Do you understand what I'm saying? So we just do it a little differently.
Oh, I get it. You don't read it 3 times, you read it 3 times.
Yes. In one sitting. You read it 3 times in 3 sittings. I read it 3 times in one sitting.
Oh, that's awesome. I totally get it. I'm just messing with you.
I
Um,
know.
I don't read it 3 times. I read it 3 times. I'm like,
Right.
what?
I probably read it more than 3 times. I probably read it about 6 or 7 times.
Fortunately, that would be a nightmare with a really long bill. But fortunately, this is a short bill.
Yes.
I have the whole bill on what 6 or 7, 8 screenshots on my phone. So it's not, you know, you don't capture a whole
So,
lot on a screenshot.
right, you don't. See, there's other people that agree with me.
Well, my biggest issue with the bill is that it's not needed, right? And what I said in my video earlier was that anytime the Congress is writing legislation that is not needed, the people are like, what are they up to? Why are you writing a piece of legislation that's not needed? Sometimes it's just for political points because most Americans don't know what legislation even exists now. So you could pass some bill and claim you did something great because Americans don't even know that was already a law, right? But sometimes it's more devious. Sometimes it's more devious.
Right.
Do you think this is devious, Jill?
I don't know yet. I can't answer that.
Okay. Is it as bad? Okay. Is it as harmless as the Republicans say? And is it as harmful as the Democrats say?
So it is not as harmless as the Republicans claim because there are a lot of steps. There are a lot of things that are in there and then things that are being questioned. And it's not as bad as the Democrats are claiming.
I would agree with that. Yeah, we're only live on YouTube today.
Yes, Kelly.
We're not live on the clock app. We couldn't connect for
Yeah.
some reason, so I
It
just said
wouldn't connect, Kelly.
I didn't. I guess I could go live, but I really don't care to go live on TikTok right now.
And you're using the phone for the bill, so
Right.
oh you don't need the phone. That's right.
So, um, are we done with that? Like, is that it?
That's the end of the bill. But Brian says, I'm not sure you're reading the entire bill because I've been reading something that looks different.
So
Are you?
what I've been reading is basically the parts that everyone has an issue with. Like, and I did read 90% of the bill. I read this bill that I'm reading is straight from Congress. It's the text of the
Yes.
bill straight from Congress. But
It's yes, it's directly from them. And there is more to that bill, yes, than what we're discussing. And I read the whole thing.
yeah, like I'm not
Oh,
going to
and
come on
I
here and read the definitions. You know, I mean, I just read the parts that were pertinent that everyone was concerned, and I still read 90% of the bill.
so I wanted to bring up people worried about Project 2025 with taking women's rights away to vote, right? For their right to vote away. They keep bringing that up, and I seen that in your video that someone said, "Did you compare it to Project 2025?" Well, Project 2025 does not mention anything about taking women's rights away, to their voting rights away. It does not. It's it's not even on the list of things that that is existent to them. There's a lot of bad things on that list, absolutely. That Project 2025 has a lot of things that would take women's rights away, but not their right to vote is not on there. That is not listed. They do not say to reappeal the 19th Amendment or anything. So where that came from was John Mac I don't even know his name. McEntee, I think that's what it is. John
McEntee.
McEntee.
Yeah.
Okay, I wasn't sure. I couldn't remember. He made a joke about the 19th Amendment. He was on a show where they were talking about um, online dating, and he made a joke about about repealing the 19th Amendment. I think we should, and he what he is he is the Project 2025 senior advisor. So when he made that joke, which I'm sure he probably is, it was a joke, but at the same time he probably does think it. But um, when he made that joke, Biden made a post about it, and basically saying that they want to repeal the 19th Amendment, but it was a joke. It's not in Project 2025. So let's get that clear. I read Project 2025. It is not in Project 2025. It might have took me a year to read Project 2025, but I did actually read it. And um, it's not in there. That's the taking away the 19th Amendment is not in there.
Right.
And I just wanted to make that clear for people who are panicking about that and comparing it to Project 2025. Look, they have a lot of things in there that would take women's rights away. That's not on there.
Yeah, and a lot of people in the chat are like, "But it's not needed. It's not needed." I agree with you. I totally agree with you that it's not needed. But the fact that it's not needed does not make a case for why it's written, right? That's a
Hmm.
separate. This could be this could be just something to placate to their base. It could be something as simple as that. Sort of like uh, the price gouging bill the Democrats passed to lower gas prices. Not
Hmm.
needed. It did absolutely nothing.
Not needed.
Did
Right.
nothing. They were playing to their base. This could be Republicans playing to their base. It could certainly be something much more devious. I just don't know, why they're doing this. I don't know their purpose, their end game. But I agree with you 100%. It's not needed. It's redundant. It's already illegal to vote if you're not a citizen. And the fact
Yes.
that we're doing this, you know, should raise red flags. But I also don't believe in, things like Hillary Clinton said, or people coming out and saying these super hyperbolic things. It's like, have you still not figured out why you lost? You know, the way the Democrats approach these issues with their messaging is 99% of the reason they lose all the time. And that is because their voters, Democratic voters and independents who vote for Democrats, are much more particular about what those people say that they vote for. Republicans don't have the problem that Democrats have. Republicans can say the dumbest shit you ever heard, and Republicans will still vote for Republicans. But that's just not how
Yes.
it is for Democrats. Democrats can't act like Republicans and win. They can't. Their voters are more picky. They will stay home if you bullshit them, right? And that, I think that's part of the problem with Democratic messaging, is they haven't figured out, like, their voters are not stupid. You cannot treat them like they're stupid. You can't say dumb shit and expect them to go vote for you. That's what Republicans do. That's not what Democrats do. That's not what independents do. They just won't show
Right.
up. They just
That's what
won't show
happens.
up. And that's
Yeah.
and when Kamala lost and when Hillary lost, what happened? It's not that they all ran and voted for Trump. It's that they just didn't show up.
They didn't show up. Yeah.
And I think what Democrats need to do is figure out what their people need to hear, and they're not good at figuring that out. I think they want to hear the truth, no matter how good or bad it is. But they're politicians. They can't. It's really hard for them to tell the truth. They're politicians. Let's be honest. So has
I completely agree.
the helicopter crash in the Hudson? Did you see it, Jill?
No,
Did you
I
see the
didn't.
video?
I did not.
Okay.
I did not watch that video. I should have, and I forgot.
So the video I saw was like the back half of the helicopter was completely gone. And it was
Oh.
it was just like the cab, right, of the helicopter, whatever you call that part, but the part where people sit, right? Just free falling out of the sky. Just straight free fall into the Hudson River. I was wondering if anybody had heard any more about that. I haven't found anything about what could have possibly happened, because it looks like the back half of this helicopter came off at some point, and then that crashed over here, and then the main part where the people were crashed over there. But I believe there were 3 children on board. There was a family from Spain. I think it was 5 or 6 fatalities. Everybody on board, gone. But it was so strange to see this thing just free falling out of this. Like you expect to see something kind of descending slow and fighting to keep flying and eventually crashing. This thing just dropped out of the sky like it was dropped, like someone just let go of it. So I was wondering if anybody had heard anything else about that. The capable Glober says a different angle seems the main rotor came off and took out the tail.
Oh.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. Because look, when helicopters start coming apart, shit gets really Western. Because there's shit just rotating shit. That's not good for rotating parts to come apart, because they hit all kinds of stuff. So that makes sense. It was a family from Spain, and I got that. And so we're basically at a point where we're at a trade embargo with China, right?
Mhm.
China's like Cuba now. They keep raising the tariffs. I don't know why. Nobody's buying anything. Nobody's going to buy anything. They could have stopped raising the tariffs 2 tariff raises ago, and nobody was going to buy anything. So I don't know why they keep doing this back and forth, raising them. It's done. You can stop now. Nobody's buying anything.
I don't know what's going on there either. Nothing Trump does makes sense though, or none of it makes any sense of what they're doing. Chaos.
Trying not to sneeze on the live today. Yeah, I don't. The number I'm looking for is how many small businesses are going to disappear from this, because there has got to be hundreds of thousands of small businesses across the United States that depend on shipments from China every single week. And as someone, I I've been a part of small businesses and big businesses. I own a couple of small businesses. Fortunately, I don't have to get anything from China. But if I had one of my small businesses, if I had to just stop getting inventory, that business would just close. It's not like a super profitable business that can sustain itself for any amount of time. It needs constant inventory and it needs to be constantly working to make money, right? That's how a lot of small businesses work. They're not sitting on tons of capital. The money they make every week is going to pay the people and to pay the owner, and like it's an income generating business, but it's not super asset heavy and it doesn't have multiple streams of revenue. It has a couple of streams of revenue that have been completely eliminated by this trade war. And these businesses will go out of business almost immediately. This isn't something they can withstand for weeks. They just go out of business. This is going to be bad.
It's going to be bad. Yeah, it is. What are you reading?
I'm reading the chat.
Okay.
What are you reading?
Well, I just seen you looking at something, and I was like, "What are you reading?"
Raina said, I heard China get around the tariffs by shipping through other countries.
Yeah, they could do that.
I have no opinion because I have no idea. It seems like they could. I mean, it sounds like something I would do. So
Yeah.
fuck you. I'll just ship it to Singapore, and then Singapore can ship it to your ass. Yeah, I'll ship it to Taiwan or somewhere else. Maybe we could ship it to Russia. I feel like Donald Trump wouldn't have any problem us buying stuff from Russia.
So we had an agreement, I guess, with China saying that um, they can't put like fake information on what was made there. Like it can't say made in the USA. It has to say made in China when it's right. And somebody was saying, now I don't know how true this is because I did not look it up yet, but somebody told me that they China removed that agreement. So that means that they could put made in wherever the hell they want and still sell it to us. I have to look that up. So we need to look that up and see how true that is. I have not done that yet because I just got that information today at the end of the day here.
Do you remember when the big influencer that sold all kinds of merchandise got busted for that? I can't remember who it was. Really big conservative influencer. The veteran guy.
What?
The veteran. The war hero. So he got busted. He was buying stuff from China, but he was having them put "Made in the USA" on it, and he got caught. And he was like this super patriot war hero, Billy Badass. I don't remember who it was. One of those. He got caught doing that. I wonder if that's why they had that agreement, or if he was. I wonder if he was doing that in the States, or having them do it in China. All I know is he was buying stuff from China and it said "Made in the USA" on it, and he got caught.
Well,
his entire sales pitch was that all of his stuff was made in the USA and that you should buy American.
And it wasn't.
Yeah, none of it. None of it. It was all made in China. Probably made in the same room that Donald Trump's ties are, right
Probably,
there.
Yeah. Same room the hats are made in.
Ryan says certificate of origin is a thing. I understand that.
Thing.
But the label on the product said "Made in America" when it was made in China. Now, I don't know if that was happening in the States or if that was happening in China, but I know it was happening because that guy got busted. Matter of fact, his whole business went under when that happened. Like it disappeared like within a week. Not good.
Yeah, it's not good.
You know, if I'm
And
going to
that's
sell you
what
something that's made in China, I'm just going to say it's made in China. If you don't want it, don't buy it.
I buy China made stuff. I don't give a shit.
Well, can't you
It's
tell?
cheaper.
Can't you tell when it's made in China? Do
Oh,
you
absolutely.
do you even need to look at the label?
Some things you would because like my I don't want to say pot again. So my pan that I bought is made in China and it's it's a thick it's, don't laugh at it. It's true. It's a pot. But anyhow, um it's you wouldn't even know it was made in China. It's fucking nice and it's thick, heavy. So there you go. You're still laughing at the pot. But yeah, so some things I guess you would have to look. I had to look at it. I looked at the bottom. I was like, oh, I said to my husband, oh, it's made in China. Let's get it.
I mean, no, it would never occur to me to look at a pot. I don't think I've ever looked at where
I
a
do.
pot was made. I'm talking about like hats and
Well,
shirts and things like, there's a little label on it, but I see what you're saying. I'm gonna go look at my pots and see where they're made.
yeah. So I'm just wondering if my pot made in China will last longer than my pot that was made here. We're about to find out, right?
They probably both last a long time because pots last a long. It's a pot. What's gonna happen to it?
Why is my mic low again? Is my mic low again, everybody else, to everyone else? Because my headset is,
Not to
it's
me.
showing that my, okay, because, well, it's showing that it's going way up.
To me, your pot should outlive you. Pots last forever. A Chinese pot will last 200 years. Like it's a pot. What's gonna happen to it? You're not gonna break it, right?
Yes, they do. They do not last forever.
Yeah, they do. They literally last
No,
forever.
not if you buy cheap ones. The hell they do.
Okay, so what breaks on the pot? The handle?
Usually, the Teflon is the first thing to go,
Well, that's different. That's Teflon. You don't want that
but it's
Teflon
good.
anyway. It poisons you. Haven't you seen that
It
documentary
does.
about Teflon? It's really bad. Really, really bad. Bad stuff.
I don't know what I
And
don't use. Yes, but that's what people buy them Teflon pots and pans, right?
right.
And my pot lasted me a good while, but it was Teflon, and now it's gone.
Do you have a Chinese cast iron skillet?
No, I have um I have an American cast iron skillet.
No.
I won't use the Chinese ones. Let me tell you what. Somebody gave me a cast iron skillet one time, and I was like, "Oh, cool." And I kept washing it and trying to get it clean because this black stuff kept coming off, and it was brand new, by the way. And it was made in China. And I said to my husband, "This is made in China. It's garbage." Like it was literally garbage.
What do you mean the black stuff was coming off?
It just like every time you wiped it,
I thought that was the
the
color of the cast iron.
no, every time you washed, like you wiped it, you would get that on the paper towel or the rag you were using, and it just like the cast iron was just coming off basically. The
Right.
it was not made well at all.
Eh,
But I have Lodge, right? So that's the only ones I'll use.
I have no idea what I have. Could be anything. It's hot today where I'm at. Is it still cold and 50 degrees and raining at your house?
It is 46 and cloudy.
Yeesh. Did you see the thing about Gretchen Whitmer?
No.
No. Gretchen Whitmer is Minnesota. Is it Minnesota or Wisconsin? No, Michigan. Neither. It's Michigan. Never mind. Um, Gretchen Whitmer came out in support of the Trump tariffs.
She came out in support. Okay.
She didn't? That's what I read.
No, I'm
Well, Gigi said no. Just no. And I was just like, what?
yeah, she said Juju said no. So
She was talking about her
I
state.
don't know if she would do that though. I don't know if I think I might agree with Juju because I'm not sure she would do that.
It's been all over the news. Here, Gretchen Whitmer angers Democrats, suffers huge embarrassment with Trump meeting at the White House. Then she came out and made a statement that she was. Let me find it here so I don't misspeak.
Hmm. Well, damn. That wasn't what I was expecting.
Yeah, the question is, what does she want? She wants something, right? And the Glober just said she needs the UAW support.
And Juju said no because she meant that she did not hear what she said. Okay, that makes sense. She wasn't saying no to what you said. Remember, you're 30 seconds behind.
I am.
Yes, on the YouTube, we are 30 seconds. I think they do that because then this way they can shut your live down without somebody hearing something.
Ah, I'm looking for an exact quote.
See,
So
see, they're still on cast irons. You see what I'm saying? Brian said you have to properly season your cast iron pan. Yes, you do.
oh, I know that. Yeah.
But yeah, see how they're still a little bit behind. So that's what she was saying no to.
Whitmer said she understands the motivation behind the tariffs, um, and says, "Here's where President Trump and I do agree: we need to make more stuff in America, more cars, more chips, more steel, more ships, and fair trade." Um, she says, "I don't know how I would have enacted them differently. I haven't really thought about that. What I have thought about is that tariffs need to be used like a scalpel." Do you believe that? She hasn't thought about how she would do it differently.
I don't know what to say to that. Like she what does she mean she hasn't thought about how she would do it differently? What does she even mean by that? Like I thought about how I would do it differently and I'm not even running for anything or in
Yeah.
any office.
Yeah. If you haven't thought about it, why are you speaking?
Yes, exactly. Why even speak about it if you haven't thought about it?
Well, I mean,
Kelly, I almost muted you.
she's
Piss
like,
with me like that.
what is she like, John Fetterman 2.0?
Oh my god. Probably.
What?
That fucking sucks. That hurt. That hurt.
Why?
Because I liked John Fetterman, and I'm kind of bummed. And we don't want anyone being like John Fetterman at this point.
What happened to John Fetterman anyway?
I don't know what happened to him. He's, I don't know what he's doing. I tried to figure it out, but there's no figuring it out. I'm just going to let him do what he does. I don't know.
Okay, so what I'm wondering is, what exactly did John Fetterman do? Because I don't know what he did. I've just heard people say that he's gone off the rails or whatever. What exactly did he do?
So he made some wrong decisions on voting, whenever putting people uh, into the administration.
Mm,
He voted on them in wrong decisions. Now there were some where they said, so you have to be real careful with that too, though, because there are some that they said he voted on, yes, to put that person in, and he did not. He did not, and so you have to be careful what you read with him because there are some major lies out there. But he
okay.
did kind of agree with Trump on a lot of things. At one point, he was agreeing with him on things he should definitely not be agreeing with him on, and then he joined Truth Social, and we were all like, "What the?" And
Okay.
and and I was thinking he was doing it because, see, Pennsylvania put helped put Trump in office. So I was thinking he was doing it to try to get the votes. And then the whole Israel thing. I'm not even going to go into that whole thing.
Okay. Let me ask
But
this. Did he agree with the administration on things that were going to pass anyway?
no, there
Or
were
was
some
he a
things that never.
deciding vote somehow?
No, no, I don't think so.
So it was
I don't
things that was going
remember.
to pass anyway, right?
I don't. Some of them did not pass. No, he was.
Okay.
Some of them just. Yeah, some of them were the executive orders that he put through.
Right. So if his vote, as Mary, I just saw Mary say down here, his vote made no difference. If his vote made no difference, why can't he be enacting some type of strategy politically? You
That's
know,
what I'm saying. I'm saying he's acting a strategy, but he is confusing people. He is confusing people.
right?
They're not sure what to think of him,
Well,
and
if
he's
he,
messing up.
okay, well, if he has some strategy to get closer to Trump to maybe try to prevent something else from happening in the future he disagrees with, or some other strategy, he can't tell the people that, or it's not a strategy anymore. You can't come out and publicly say, I'm going to support this. That way I can talk Donald Trump into doing this instead of this, or maybe making this a little less harmful than it would have been otherwise. And that's what I'm saying. We often go after politicians, and it's just like I said with Gretchen Whitmer here and the tariffs. As soon as I said what she did, I said, what does she want? Does anyone
Exactly.
know what she wants? She wants something, right? She's not coming out here in support of tariffs just because. She wants something very specific. And this is what she thinks she has to do to get it, right? Someone said United Auto Workers. There's some emergency funds also she's trying to get. What I'm saying is we need to be careful about being really critical of politicians that are being politicians because this is what politicians are supposed to do. And we're not always supposed to know why they're doing it. So, for Fetterman, and like I said, I don't even know what he's done. But what I would say is let all this play out. And when it's time to vote, you will know if he was playing some strategy or if he's completely flipped, right?
Yes. Yes. And that's what I'm waiting on John Fetterman. And I have said this before and I'll say it again. Um, I am watching him. That's all I'm doing. right now at this
Yeah.
point. And so far, I'm okay. I have issues with it, some of the stuff he's doing. But you're right. If it's a strategy that he's doing, he can't tell people.
Right.
And I feel like it is. I feel like it is. But at the same time, you're wondering, because why wouldn't you wonder?
Right. Of course you'll wonder.
That's where I'm at. That's why I'm like, with him. That's why I'm so frustrated, because I want to know what the hell he's doing. Why don't he message me and tell me?
You should get a hold. You should say, "Do you know who I am?" Um, he's in a very purple, like his voters. He's purple,
Yes.
right? So he kind of has to
Yep.
play both sides, is what I'm reading. Wayne said his voters are
Yes.
50-50. He has to play both sides.
He has to play both sides.
Um,
He absolutely does, and that's why I think that he has something under, you know, he has something going on. He's thinking something. There's a plan for him, because I'm going to tell you right now, Fetterman was a great mayor. He was uh, a great lieutenant governor. He, and like he said, he doesn't care if you like him or not. And he is that way. And that's what I always liked about him, because he didn't give a shit who liked him and who didn't. He made
damn,
his decisions.
he must be a
And
Capricorn.
maybe, I don't know.
Look up his birthday. I bet he's a Capricorn. He's definitely a Gen Xer.
Oh, yes. Yes, he is 100% a Gen Xer.
He don't
And
give a fuck
I,
what you think.
he doesn't. And he said it. And he said it.
And see, this is why I would have a hard time holding office, because people would be
That's probably
constantly
why he's
accusing
having.
me of doing stuff like John Fetterman.
Yes, Mary. Absolutely, Mary. People did jump to that. I actually defended him whenever people were jumping at that. Um, I actually did defend him. But I want to know what he's up to. I really do.
He's born in August. He's not a Capricorn. Fuck John Fetterman.
Then he's a Leo, well, August what?
15th.
Oh, he's a Leo. So that just tells you right there. Yes, that's pretty much right.
Is it? I don't know.
Yeah, my son's a
I
Leo.
don't know what Leos do.
My son's a Leo.
Yeah, when politicians do things like that can't affect an outcome, and like I start to wonder, what are they doing? I always just say, well, they're working some deal or something. It's not. If it doesn't affect the outcome of the vote, then it doesn't matter to me. Um, but when you have politicians that stray from what they've always done, and their one vote changes everything, that's a little more concerning for sure.
So, I lost the comment. Oh, Christine said he's supposed to represent his constituents. He's not doing that, but he is. He is doing that. Um, it's just right now he's he's making some decisions that are not affecting anything. Let's just put it that way. It literally affects nothing, the decisions he's making. And my concern is, when it will affect something, what will he do?
Well, if he's in an area where the voters are 50-50, 50% of the people are going to be pissed off at him every day, no matter what.
So 100%, pretty much, except for a few people are angry at him. So the Republicans, that's where I'm getting at. The Republicans, the Trumpers, not the Republicans. Let me get that right. MAGA does not like him, and they never will, because they don't like the way he dresses. They don't like the way he talks. They don't. I don't know. They're weird, and so they will never like him. And I still see that. I still see those people saying that they can't stand him. So they will never like him. And So in all reality, if he is choosing to stay in the middle, he's doing the wrong decision on that because his voters were independents and Democrats.
He does dress like a bum, though. I thought I
Yeah,
dressed like a bum. He really
he does
dresses like
dress
a
like
bum.
a.
Yeah.
Yeah, he does.
He,
But I don't care how he dresses as long as he gets the job done.
I really don't either, but how do you wear gym shorts every day?
So in Pennsylvania, there's this thing.
Put on a pair
Oh
of
my
khakis.
God. There is this thing in Pennsylvania where people wear them shorts with sweatshirts all winter long.
Yeah.
I don't know where that came from, but that is 100% a Pittsburgh thing. At least Pittsburgh. I don't know if all Pennsylvania does it, but Pittsburgh does it.
Is he from Pittsburgh?
Well, he was the mayor in a town that is this pretty much Pittsburgh.
Right outside of Pittsburgh?
Braddock. It was Braddock, yeah.
Oh, okay. I don't care what he wears. It's just if a guy worked for me and showed up to work like that, I'd be like, dude, like, come on. I mean, I wear shorts every day, but like I'll put on some khakis or something and either a t-shirt or a shirt with a collar. Like I still dress like a bum, but like he really slums it. Like he just really,
That's the area that he was the mayor in.
yeah.
That's definitely how they dress.
Because how you present yourself, right, can reflect on how people view you, whether you like that or not. It doesn't mean you have to placate to people, but you know, hell, at least put on some khakis. You're 55. People expect you to wear khakis. It's like the only thing I wear, right?
Yep.
I got 15 pairs of khaki shorts and 5 pair of jeans. Like, that's who we are. We're middle-aged men. But that's something more like a kid would wear. You know what I mean? Or a
Yeah.
20-something-year-old. Like, not a 55-year-old man. So I hear, I don't know if it's true, but I heard, or I read, I didn't hear, I read something about us paying people in Greenland $10,000 a year. Everybody in Greenland, $10,000 a year. Have you heard about this?
I did not.
I
What's
haven't.
it about?
Uh, we're thinking about paying people in Greenland $10,000 a year. Is what? uh,
What do, like what's the reason for it?
well, apparently that's to make them feel better because we're going to take over their country.
Oh my God. That has to be a lie. That has to be made up.
Why does that have to be made up?
Cause that can't be real. It
It's
just
right here on the
doesn't
news.
seem
Trump
like
administration on people. Trump administration may offer annual $10,000 checks for every Greenlander if U.S. can annex the island. President is not backing down on his desire to annex the autonomous Danish territory, which is home to many rare earth deposits. Uh, they are working on a new strategy where they pay Greenlanders $10,000 a year.
what is $10,000 though?
This is
What
from the New
is
York
ten thousand
Times.
dollars?
I don't know how far $10,000 gets you in Greenland. I know what it gets you in Oklahoma, but I don't know
I
what
know what
it.
it gets you in Pennsylvania. It doesn't get you shit.
But it's free, right? Um, this is meant to supplant or offset the $600 million in subsidies that Denmark currently gives to the island. I don't know if that's checks they write the people directly or how that works, but we're looking at 10,000 bucks.
Okay, so let's say that $10,000 would get you somewhere in Greenland, right? If it became part of the United States, where will it get you then? That's the thing.
I don't know.
It'll get you shit.
All the people in Alaska will move to Greenland. They might. Gerald says they have European Social Security in Greenland. So we're just going to pay these people? That's right. We can't help homeless Americans, but we can give Greenlanders $10,000 a year.
And I was going to add that we can't even guarantee our own citizens health care, but they're going to give $10,000 a year to Greenland, to everybody in Greenland. Well, if they gave us $10,000 a year just to buy health insurance, then we would be all right.
Yeah. Faux show.
This administration is making me nauseous. Like, I am getting sick every
Really?
day from the new shit that comes out.
Really? Do you need some stuff? Some, what do they call that stuff for nausea?
Yeah, I don't need that.
That
That's just
medicine?
wording. That's just wording. Like, I am not physically, it's just I am mentally drained from this shit.
Yeah. So, what about the U.S. troops being deployed to the Panama Canal?
What is going on with that?
This is in Newsweek. American troops could be soon deployed to military bases along the Panama Canal as part of a deal signed by the U.S. President Trump has threatened the U.S. could retake control of the Panama Canal. Blah, blah, key global trade route. Sounds like we are thinking about sending a bunch of troops down there and loading up bases. Um, Pete Hegseth said joint training exercises operations between the two nations. So it sounds like we're not going to take over the Panama Canal. We're just going to stick God knows how many U.S. soldiers down there to remind them every day that we're there. All right.
So I guess a judge agreed with Trump in allowing immigration um, enforcement in churches.
Yeah. Yeah. You can get dragged out of your church.
I'm actually shocked at that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a thing. The other thing is the person that they claimed was one of the top leaders of MS-13. They've dropped all charges against that person. They got this guy. They came out at a press conference. They said he's one of the top guys in the MS-13, the gang. Now they're dropping the charges.
Hmm.
Republicans are saying, well, they're only dropping the charges because they're deporting him to El Salvador. Is he MS-13 or not? That's what I want to know.
I don't know.
All I want to know is if he's MS-13, because they're going to deport him. It doesn't matter. But this, our government, not just the Trump administration, but our government has a history of coming out and saying people are certain people when they're not those people. And this is a perfect example of that. They came out, rushed out, said he's one of the leaders of the MS-13. Is he? Or is he not?
I don't know.
They've done this with a lot of people. They come out and they ruin people. And some of these
Mhm.
people are innocent. Some of these people are not the people. Like when they do this, it is a violation of their rights, isn't it? You
It
know.
is, yes. And what it you I think you could even sue people for, defamation of character.
Yeah. And the only thing I want to know, because he is apparently here illegally, so the only thing I want to know, because they're going to deport him, right? Which he's getting the same treatment as he would get as any other illegal.
Mhm.
Uh, I want to know if he's MS-13. That's all I want to know. I want to know if I was lied to about who this person is. That's all I want to know.
Yeah,
He either is or he isn't. You know,
just tell us.
I just want to know if I was lied to. And this is not something, that is just the Trump administration does. All administrations do it. They come out, they make claims about people that are completely untrue. They destroy people. That's what our government is really good at, is destroying people.
Mhm. They are.
I just feel like if he is who they said they were, or they said he is, why would they treat him like any other person that's an illegal that they're going to deport? That makes no sense to me.
Well, it doesn't make sense to me either. I don't.
If he's going to get treated the same as just any other low level whatever, then it doesn't. I mean, why come out and have a press conference? You know. And also, I
So
also feel
everyone
like
like it.
there's a lot of value in keeping him if that's who he is. MS-13 is a major thing, right? This
It is. Yes.
this global. This is a global crime organization. This is not just a bunch of dudes in fucking wherever. you know, this is global. It seems like there would be a ton of value in keeping him to get whatever information they could. We've kept people for decades. They've had this guy for a week or two, and they're like, we're just going to deport him. I just don't believe it. I don't believe it.
Yeah, I feel the same way. Listen, people, don't forget to like and share the live. And the reason I'm bringing this up is don't be like me and forget to do it. Hit that thumbs up.
I forgot to do it.
I forgot to like and share the live. Yes, and that yeah, don't be like me.
I don't know how to do it. How do I do that?
What are you
Who are
sharing
we
from the
sharing this
computer?
with? Where are we
I
sharing
share
this?
it I share it to Facebook.
Okay. Oh yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen you do that.
I
Sweet.
mean, I do it from the computer, so there isn't much that I can share it to. But if I go on my phone, I can also share it to what's that other app? Blue Sky.
Blue Sky.
Yeah. You can share it to X. You can share it to what them places like that. Which I'll share it to Blue Sky right now. You have to copy link to share it to Blue Sky though, because it does not allow you to share directly.
Ah, sons of bitches.
Hmm.
John says if he was a true gang leader as claimed, they would parade him around like Mangione. I don't know. I just feel like he would stay here longer. I feel like they would keep him if he was who they said he was. I feel like they would keep him.
Brian said he shares it with the government to be careful.
That's okay.
Oh, at least I got a laugh today. So Brian also said, FYI, waterboarding is still a thing. Did you know that?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, I go to the spa once a week and have it done. It's great.
Oh my God. It took me a second. And I'm like sitting there going, what is he talking about?
I got a gift certificate, it was on the menu. Opens up the pores. It's really great.
No, you didn't tell us which government though. It's not the government. Can't you tell that Matt is going?
It's the Panamanians. Yes, Lori, I am a Capricorn. Jill got kicked. Weird, huh? Maybe it'll let her back in. Jill got kicked. It's not letting me let her back in. Thank you, Mary. If you did that, I would send it back to you. Thank you so much, Mary. I'm going to do this. I don't know if splashing opens up the pores or not. I don't know. Can you guys still hear me? Huh. You can hear me, but everything else is locked up. We can't get Jilly back in. I can't get any of this to work right. That's fantastic. It's not your phone, Jill. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and shut down because this whole thing is froze up. I can't get anything to work. Thank you all for coming in today and joining us. I'm going to try to get this fixed, but the whole thing's froze up. I can't get it to work anymore. Thanks, everybody.